Hello and welcome to Japanese Explainer. So this week's question was about how to become better at listening comprehension in Japanese. In other words, listening and really following and understanding what the other person is saying or the audio that you're hearing. So what I found interesting about the question was the person, God's will, mentioned listening to songs. And that is something that actually I have heard a lot of people mention before in my life over the 20 years, more than 20 years that I've been in this career. A lot of people have talked to me about trying to learn Japanese through songs, and usually what they are talking about is anime songs or J-pop or J-rock songs. So it's a little tricky because a lot of times when they're phrasing it to me like that, I say, no, you absolutely should not learn Japanese through song. Now, what do I mean by that, though? Because in many ways, songs are a great way to learn any language, including Japanese, but they have to be the right songs. So in order for the songs to work as a way to really learn, they have to be the right type of song. And what do I mean by that? I think the easiest way for an English-speaking person, an American, a Brit, etc., to understand what I mean is to think about our own pop and rock music. So two albums that I really like are Bob Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited and Tori Amos's Boys for Pele. I probably liked Boys for Pele a little bit more when I was a teenager than I do now, but still, two excellent albums. Now, if any of you have listened to those albums, if I were to ask you, should a non-English speaker try to learn English or practice their English understanding, listening skills through Bob Dylan and Tori Amos, you would scream, oh my God, no, so fast. It would feel obvious, no, this is not the way to learn English. And I don't even have to explain why, because it just feels obvious when I phrase it like that. So when you are trying to learn Japanese through J-rock or J-pop or anime songs, that is like trying to learn Japanese through trying to understand a Bob Dylan song or a Tori Amos song. They are great songs. And the exercise of trying to understand them is a great exercise, but it's not a great exercise when you're learning the language. When you're learning the language, you actually want to listen to a totally different type of song, which is the children's song, typically speaking. So a good example of this would be the types of songs that I learned at language immersion camp when I was a teenager. I went to a French immersion camp where I learned a song that I remember to this day. I can tell you every single verb that takes être in the passé composé, and I do not still speak French. My French is buried deep beneath my Japanese. I haven't spoken French in probably 20, 25 years. But if you put a gun to my head and said, name every verb that takes être in the passé composé, I would be able to pass that test and survive because I remember a song. Just like when I was in middle school or elementary school, we had to learn a song about all the states of the United States in alphabetical order. And I could still sing that song. I'm in my 40s. And I can still sing that song, which means if I ever have to take a test where I have to list all 50 states of the United States in alphabetical order, I can do it. And I bet that's probably true, actually, of a lot of you listening if you grew up in the United States. At Japanese camp, I learned several songs, and the one that I kind of remember clearly and I think of when I think of what's a good way to learn some Japanese is the Gohan song, which we as campers had to sing every time we were having a meal before we started eating. So, it's time to eat, let's eat, which I learned many years later is not a song that was written by somebody at my Japanese camp, but in fact a song that you teach to like kindergartners in Japan. And I am going to link it to you. I'm going to link a YouTube video of some people singing it so you could check out that song. But that is the kind of song that is actually written for a pedagogical purpose, a song that is written to teach us something. That is the kind of song that helps us learn. So I really just need you to think about Bob Dylan, a Nobel Prize laureate in poetry, someone I admire very much, You cannot learn English from him. You just can't. So you want to listen to a different type of song. Japanese Pod 101 has actually another pedagogical song for learning the words for different colors in Japanese, which would work on either young Japanese children who are learning their colors or potentially on you. That's on YouTube. I'll link it right here. But TLDR here is, I think that all those songs have a really great place in learning, unless you have access to some really good pedagogical songs, or you really like children's music and you want to watch a lot of children's music YouTube videos. Probably this is not the best way to learn to understand Japanese better with your ears. How do you understand Japanese better with your ears? In other words, how do you do better listening comprehension? Well, first things first, have you joined Japanese Explainer? That is the Facebook group where people ask questions, and that's what's generating all of these answers. And a few days ago, I posted a good article on exactly this topic with some suggested resources, audio sources that you can listen to, many of them for free, that are a really good match for helping you listen to Japanese. So that is one good place to look. Another excellent resource right here on YouTube is go to the YouTube channel at JapanesePod101 and subscribe. That is JapanesePod101.com's dedicated YouTube channel. And then I want you to go into their channel and I want you to click on podcasts. Okay, look at the screen. This is what I'm talking about. Click on podcasts and you're going to see what I've put on the screen here, which is some listening comprehension. That's kikitori in Japanese, listening comprehension. You're going to see 4 dedicated different playlists for kikitori resources based on what level of Japanese you're at. So if you have never tried to listen to Japanese before, you're going to go to absolute beginner. If you're a beginner, but it's not your first day, you're going to go to beginner, and they have an intermediate and they have an advanced. So this is a great YouTube channel. Go into these playlists, start listening to them, and as you get better, you move up to the next level. And that is actually a really great way to increase your kikitori understanding, your listening comprehension in Japanese. This is better than anime, I think, for this purpose, because think about it this way. When you're watching anime and you're listening, you're also, if you're watching it in Japanese, probably you're trying to read subtitles at the same time. So your brain is trying to do 2 different things. It's trying to listen to the Japanese and it's trying to read the subtitles. And that is not ideal, actually, at least not for this purpose. So for the purpose of getting better at listening to Japanese and catching it as it's being spoken, you want to be focusing on doing only that. You don't want to also be reading in a different language with your eyes, because then your concentration is split between 2 things. What you want to focus on first is just listening to it in Japanese. So if you are really dedicated to doing that the anime way, then you need to obstruct the subtitles from yourself. Don't look at the subtitles. You know, if you're watching on a computer, maybe you put a Post-it over them, whatever. Don't look at them. If you're watching a Blu-ray or DVD where it's possible to turn them off, turn them off. Listen to just the Japanese, then turn on the subtitles and watch the same scene again with the subtitles on. That would be a way to do it the anime way. But anime with subtitles is probably not what you want to do for this exact purpose. What you want to do for this purpose is something much more like Japanese Pod 101, the YouTube channel, the playlist we looked at, or go on over to the Japanese Explainer Facebook group, read the article where I linked to someone recommending a whole bunch of different resources for you. And I think that is really, really going to help you. And when you go back and you start listening to anime more while watching the subtitles, you're going to realize, oh my gosh, since the last time I did this, because I've been doing the other stuff, I'm now catching so much more than I used to catch before I started practicing in the other way. And you'll see yourself level up. And I hope it is very satisfying. And I wish you the best in all of your studies. Thank you, and talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.